All right. Hi, everyone. It's so hard to finish this tune because it's so much fun to listen to, but we've got so much more fun waiting for us. So I'll kick us off and I will warmly welcome every one of you to our session today. I'm so happy you're here. Our webinar is going to focus on roadblocks and realities of building a resource management function. And I'm happy to be here with you. My name is Nora. I'm going to be the host of our session today. I work as a transformation consultant. I help teams design better, more meaningful ways of working, ones that are actually purposeful, authentic, and make sense in the world we live in today. And before we kick off, I've got a little check-in question that I would like to share with everyone, just to welcome you into the room, to also get a sense for who's here with us today. And this check-in question relates very nicely to our session and our topic of today. So I would like to ask you, if your resource management journey were a road right now, would it be roadworks, stuck at a red light, open highway, or a roundabout? And Edem very kindly also copied this question into the chat. So feel free to pick the answer that jumps at you. It doesn't need to be perfect, just an intuitive choice is great. Also, Suzanne and Rashonda, feel free to also answer. And make sure when you send your answer that you send it to everyone so everyone can see what you have shared. And the first answers are already coming in. I was so excited to see. Jennifer shares roadworks. Dave says stuck at a red light. We've got Irene with roadworks, more red lights with Taylor, more roadworks. Chelsea, roundabout. Around roadworks, I would say a mixture of all, says Shiv. Okay, perfect. So we've got pretty much, I would say, an alignment on roadworks and stuck at red light, and Shiv nicely connecting all of them. Great. Thank you so much for checking in with us. And I want to highlight that this session is part of Run's Leap webinar series. So we invite bright minds like our two wonderful speakers that we've got today into this platform, and we like to share their expertise, dive into intriguing topics so that we can all learn and grow together. That's at the heart of it. So it's all about authentic, practical, sharing from lived experience for the benefit of the community. And Run is purpose built to make capacity and resource planning smarter, faster, and more human. So thank you to Run for sponsoring this webinar. All right, and just for your benefit, we will be using the last 15 minutes of our time together today for your questions. So as you follow along our conversation, I warmly invite you to capture anything that pops up that piques your interest in the Q&A section of Zoom webinar here. If you have any thoughts or anything you would like to share, you can also use the chat to share any comments and insights. And with that, it's my absolute pleasure now to introduce our two lovely ladies that we've got as our panelists today. First of all, Suzanne Finger. She serves as a senior resource manager at Point Click Care, as you can see by her beautiful background. Point Click Care is a leading healthcare technology platform enhancing collaboration and insight across the healthcare continuum. And her own journey began as a nurse, which I find very interesting, in a facility that implemented Point Click Care, which then basically combined her passion for nursing and technology to be part of this project of implementation. Then she joined Point Click Care as an implementation consultant and evolved into a practice delivery manager, a role that deepened her understanding of professional services. And then recognizing the need for a specialized resource management function, Suzanne transitioned into her current role, where she has been pivotal in the RMO's inception and growth over the last 5 years. Suzanne's approach is characterized by a commitment to fostering organizational growth through strategic resource management. And her guiding theme can be summarized as maturity is an ongoing process. Always be maturing. Suzanne, it's an absolute pleasure to have you here with us today.
Thank you for having me. Happy to be
Nice.
here.
And alongside Suzanne, we've got Rashonda Gibson. She is a project resource manager at Point Click Care. And with more than a decade of experience helping organizations streamline operations, improve staffing, and build resource management teams, she has planted her roots firmly in this very much arena of resource management. Her experience is cross-functional. It includes finance and operations, giving her a firm understanding of how to strategically align business initiatives with the appropriate talent while growing revenue and eliminating waste. She already built 3 resource management offices up from the bottom due to M&A activities. Her guiding theme can be summarized as keep things fluid. It is never etched in stone. So thank you so much, Rashonda, for also being here with us today.
Thank you for having me. Very excited to be here.
Fantastic. And with that, it's now our time to dive into our topic, roadblocks and realities of building a resource management office. And I would like to kick us off with an overarching question for both of you. When you first launched your resource management office, in your case, Rashonda, the 3 offices you have been a part of building, what was your true starting point when you look at all the different potential starting points, processes, tools, culture? Where did you really start? And what did you prioritize first and why? So, Suzanne, can you maybe kick us off by sharing Point Click's care journey?
Yeah, absolutely. So, the what I'm speaking about today, I want to make sure that it's clear that we are a software as a service space. So, when I'm referring to this, I'm giving you information on that space. Rashonda will give you some on some other spaces as well. But we basically started as a professional services organization delivering software as a service, and um, there were 15 managers. I was a manager at the time, as you mentioned, and we were literally all 15 of us jumping on a call every day to resource. So even if it was an hour, sometimes 2 hours, that's 30 hours in one day if it was 2 hours just to resource the roles. There was no systems for capabilities. It was all what was in our heads. So we recognized, and by the way, Point Click Care has approximately 8,000 projects a year. So we have quite a bit to resource. So the priority number one for us was taking that duty of scheduling and resourcing off the manager's hand to allow them to focus on delivery and managing their people. So we were lucky. The buy-in with the C-suite was already there before I began. Um, it was really just it was a time saver, and there was no um, just it was just all data in our heads. We needed a place to store everything. So we focused first on just professional services. So we're still maturing. As I mentioned earlier, you said my guiding force was maturing. We're still working on that. We're getting there. But our main priority for our RMO right now is professional services. And I was chosen and selected and decided to become RMI certified, and then decided to take that up. So the first thing we really did was we needed to have a single source of truth for resourcing for our opportunities, etc. So basically that was the main guiding factor for why we needed it was taking up too much time for our managers. So I'll let Rashonda answer for some other areas, other spaces that she has dealt with.
Nice. Thank you, Suzanne. And I'm looking forward to hearing from you now, Rashonda. What were the different starting points you have been a part of?
Yes, so when I think of starting an RMO, when I think about what to prioritize first, it always starts, no matter the industry, the size of the company, it always starts with determining the current state and the lay of the land. And so with that, you want to determine, is there buy-in across all teams you will interact, not just the stakeholders that are leading the charge, but you have to think about you're interacting with sales, HR, the delivery team, finance. Is there buy-in and understanding across those teams? So that's a starting point in getting the lay of the land for me, because then it helps me dictate whether or not there are any behaviors that I may need to adjust before I can get to the actual work. And then, of course, where are there silos and overlaps with respect to resource management duties? Because as you're determining that lay of the land, you're going to find out that there are team members in other teams that are already performing some of those duties that you are about to take on. And so you want to be able to navigate around that very sensitively and establish that trust and ensure that you're not effectively taking something, you're taking the way it's done. So,
Definitely.
yeah, so when you think about, do some managers currently handle all assignments? Do they determine when resources are needed? Do they currently build the dashboards and reports related to capacity utilization, all those things? So you're looking for those silos and overlaps. And then as a part of the layout and land, I'm also thinking about what type of RMO do your stakeholders want you to set up? They may not know, right? But for instance, is it a tactical one? A tactical one serves the purpose of supporting a PMO. So your primary responsibility are going to be assigning resources to projects. And if that's where you're starting, then you're going to look at things like what Susie just mentioned. How much time are you currently spending
Mhm.
getting that together? And I will tell you, most companies are sitting in hours and hours of meetings.
I bet. And
Resource, yes.
yeah, so Shonda,
Resource.
you actually shared something I find quite valuable. So maybe now is a good moment to actually bring it up and share it. You shared basically some helpful guiding questions that you can use in that phase of assessing the lay of
Yes.
the land, as you beautifully said. So I'm just going to share my screen and maybe you can just quickly outline how you've used this and how it can be of service to anyone listening in today.
Yes, certainly. And thank you for bringing that up, Nora, because when I am prioritizing where to start, it is that lay of the land. If you have that lay of the land, that foundation set, then it will help you not only start, but help you with your growth plan for the RMO. So one of the first things that I do with team members and how I assess what they may already be doing, how they feel about the RMO. Those things are very generic questions, but they are designed to elicit very powerful answers. So I ask to a team member, every single team member, the same question. How do you know what to do every day? And you are going to get varying answers. Some are going to be very structured, some are going to be very loose, some are not going to know how to answer the question. But that's also going to determine how much waste is happening within a resource, how efficient that resource, whether or not you have revenue leakage, those types of things. It may sound simplistic, but it is very powerful. A sample question that I might ask a manager or leader is, how will you measure success? I get so many different varying answers from that question that also lets me know whether or not they think of the RMO as tactical or strategic. If they're measuring success by how quickly you assign the resources, then they're thinking of the RMO as a support function to the PMO that assigns. If they answered a question that they are looking to the RMO to provide proper data so they can determine accurate resources and prevent revenue leakage, then I know that they are looking for a strategic RMO that handles all resources that are billable to a client, whether they handle projects or not. So they're looking at workforce management. So those questions, again, while sounding very simple, that's by design, it elicit very powerful answers.
And you shared something I found extremely helpful in our prep conversation on how to facilitate these conversations to actually get authentic, true answers. Can you share that with us?
Certainly. And this is one that you might find resistance. As you're performing your assessments, it's key to do them in probably one of two ways. Either it's a group where you have the entire team, so you're looking for very generic answers there. But if you want to get to the heart of the assessment, it should be one-on-one. So if a manager requests to join, then it's probably best to just cancel it because you're not going to get the answers that you really need to set the foundation. It becomes more performative than getting at the crux of the issues.
hmm Very nice. Yes. So if someone listening in is interested in this slide, we're more than happy to share it. Thanks to the two of you. Thank you for providing it. So just let us know in the chat if this is something we can share in our follow-up email. We would be very happy to do so. Just checking here, you also provided some reasoning behind the questions. So this is also something we're happy to provide. Anything else you would like to point out that might be helpful for our audience here?
Yeah, so when you're looking at the reasoning behind the questions, it's kind of similar to how I explained it. So that way you can understand to keep the questions on a basic level and listen. So you ask and you listen and you take notes, and that will elicit other questions that you may ask. But you want to keep them open-ended because you're listening for themes. You're
Yeah.
listening for how you should grow, how you should implement, what behaviors you may need to change in order so that way you can build a trust environment and collaborate with the teams that you'll need to work.
Fantastic. Yes, and I could already see that there were multiple requests. So absolutely, we're happy to include it in our follow-up email. So watch out for that. Nice. All
I
right.
would like to add
Mhm.
one thing here. So
Please.
um, I think it's good to know, as Ms. Rhonda mentioned, that it can be tactical or strategic.
Mhm.
Um, in our case, it's becoming both, and that's where I get back to the always maturing. We
Mhm.
started out, as I mentioned, very tactical. We still are very
Mhm.
tactical. It was the most important thing for our organization. But as you grow and mature, we are going through these same things that Rashonda's speaking of right now, currently, to become more strategic now that we've got our feet wet and we're doing a good job at the tactical part of it. So it's okay. It doesn't have to all be perfect from the get-go. And that's okay
I love
to
that.
iterate it.
100% agree with that. And we'll get to how to look at success in the different stages, especially for young RMOs, in a little bit. But first of all, I would just like to take a step back and also look at the different moments, especially you, Rashonda, you've been part of three organizations setting up an RMO, a resource management function from the ground up. So when you look at the themes, what could you notice? When was the moment that an organization decided to invest in setting up a resource management function?
Yeah, certainly for me, in my cases, it was due to merging in purchases or selling off businesses. So then it becomes overly clear to a company
Mhm.
that they need to look at the resources, and perhaps there is a lot of revenue leakage. So in those cases, it's not a lot of resistance to
Mhm.
at least implementing. There might be resistance to how you implement, but there is not resistance to actually implementing the RMO function. So when you're looking at a company that may be growing, that may be
Mhm.
an instance where they may want an RMO, or a company that has maybe capsulized another company and they want to determine whether or not there are redundancy in the roles and whether or not they can improve their efficiency. So I would say it's the theme for me, having worked in multiple industries, I really have not really witnessed stark differences no matter what the industry.
That's super interesting. And
Mhm.
Suzanne, could you maybe share a little bit more about that moment you were basically invited to jump into this new role, being the first resource manager inside your organization? What inspired this invitation?
Well, as a nurse, I also had done some resourcing. We had to align the CNAs and stuff, schedule everybody. So scheduling. So it's kind of one of the things that's in my wheelhouse in terms of getting resources, the right resources at the right time. So it was just an interesting time. They offered to send me to the RMI to get the certification, and I enjoyed that. And so it again, as Rashonda mentioned earlier as well, it was very tactical for us at first.
Mhm.
Still is extremely tactical, and that tactical part will not change. We will always have to do that
Mhm.
to keep the lights on. But it was basically just we need to do this. We need to give our managers a chance to manage the people
Mm.
and work on the business.
Totally. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. It's a great step of also evolving, maturing as a business, right? To
Correct.
start centralizing or becoming more mature at resource management. Great. All right. So we've had a first taste at the starting point you have witnessed. Let's now move on to the second big question, maybe the heart of this conversation. What actually are the biggest and most surprising roadblocks that you have encountered when setting up a resource management office from scratch? And how did you overcome them? And maybe, Rashonda, would you like to kick off? What was one big roadblock you have encountered, and how did you go about it?
Yeah, certainly. I would say, I mean, there's a few that I can probably think of, but if I think about the one theme that I've been bringing up is educating the business. So you may have buy-in from your stakeholders, but it's the teams, the multiple teams that you're going to work with, educating them. There'll be varying levels of understanding across the company. Some may believe that RMO only handles project-related resourcing. Some may believe that the resource function is more all capacity planning. So it's getting that educating the business, making sure that everyone is on the same page. It is a huge roadblock after you get that buy-in from the
Mhm.
company, making sure that you can move forward systematically with all of the teams. So that can include HR, is going to include sales, it's going to include finance. And that I think setting up that education from the beginning can help you achieve the data that you need a lot easier because the RMO can't survive without its data.
100%. And just on that point, like educating the different stakeholders around the resource management office, what have you found most useful? What is in best service of helping others understand the resource management arena and its value?
Yes, for me, it has been more the communication plan. So
Mhm.
when you implement, of course, you want to announce the RMO, but you want to make sure that they understand the function of an RMO. And if you're starting at one point, all companies are going to grow. So say you're starting from the tactical standpoint, you let them know this is where we're starting. And then
Mm.
here are some things we intend to grow. We're
Mm.
going to take on other roles and responsibilities as we mature. So that way there's that seed planted that there will be change. I
Mm.
think that is probably the key. So you can start anywhere. Maybe you are ready to start on a more mature level, but maybe you're starting from the beginning, and that is okay. But the key is that communication, 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 communication. I can't stress it enough.
Love it. Yes. And I could already see hearts flying. So there's definitely resonance in the audience. So thank you for kicking us off with this important piece, education and communication and its importance. Suzette, I'm super curious to hear, like, what is the biggest roadblock that comes into your mind when you think about your own journey so far?
For ours, it was definitely resistance to change and fear, the fear that comes with change. So that's not just for building a resource management office, but any change. There's resistance to change. And the key way that we handled that was really working on building relationships and trust. Just talking to them, making sure they understand the processes that we're doing. So we were taking a duty that they had done every day for the whole inception of of point click care, and we were taking that and they were having somebody else do it, and that brings out some feelings
Mhm.
of fear. And so it took a while, but it took repetitive communication, as Rashonda said, understanding how we are going to do what our process is, explaining our process, how we're doing it, what the process is, if there's errors or, just any of that. It was just all communication and getting them over and having them build the trust with them that we're making the same decisions in with the guidance of the principles that they want us to follow for our business, which might not be which will be different for everyone, but we follow those principles and we pick the right person for the role that we're assigning to. So that was
Mm.
one of the biggest roadblocks, was getting over that hump where they trust us and say, you know what, you've got it. And that was a big roadblock.
Yes, yes, that resonates a lot as a transformation consultant. This roadblock has also encountered me in some projects, if not every project. So it's a very human trait. And I love your point. I want to double click on it, that transparency and yeah, basically sharing what are we doing, why are we doing it, and really highlighting the intention, the positive intention to serve the business and its people, that creates trust, and that's the basis for everything. So thank you so much for sharing that. Super, super important. I can already see that there's a first question in our Q&A, which is awesome. And I just want to praise Ravi for sharing his question. So please, everyone, as you listen, feel free to follow that example and capture your questions. That's exactly what we're keen to hear from you. Next up, we also talked about centralizing data and the importance of it. And also, it can be a roadblock. So I'm really keen, perhaps Roshonda, could you share a little bit about that? How does it show up usually on a resource management office journey? And how can we proactively manage this roadblock so it becomes something we can overcome?
Yes. So I am a fan of regularly scheduled huddles. And those huddles are a form of communicating with large groups of people at once, whether it's by teams or departments or what have you. And that way you can learn their concerns. You learn things that they believe that you're winning. Also getting their input of how they would like to see improvement. That way you're collaborating. I believe that helps build the trust, and it also helps you overcome those roadblocks once you establish that trust, because communication is a two-way street. And so it all goes back to communication and keeping it there. That communication allows you to perform your work with ease. And it's transparent. And I think that's probably a theme for Susie too. She's very transparent. So that really helps move forward with ease. It helps overcome that fear. So
Mhm.
it sounds like it's the soft skills that really help you push forward so you can work on your hard skills.
Mhm. Yes, absolutely. Suzanne, I would also love to hear from you. How have you gone about centralizing data? We talked about the one source of truth earlier.
Mhm.
Where do you get started?
Yeah, so that was really key for us. We've got an offering of a lot of products, and finding the right people. We were using smart sheets and Excel spreadsheets, and it was just literally all in the managers' heads. And as you can imagine, when a manager leaves, then there's no way to do it. So we actually our company uses a PSA. Cantata SX is what we happen to use, but any of them are really, as long as you have a way to centralize the skill sets. So it's kind of hard to assign someone um, to something if you don't know whether they are able to do it or not. So that was
Mhm.
that was key for us. And
Mhm.
we've matured in how we use those the capabilities over time. We don't necessarily do the same capabilities that we did the day we started, but
Mhm.
some have had to stay, and we do different roles to have different types of capabilities for us. It's just how it worked for our business. But just knowing the importance of having it in one place where it's updated once. We have it where it's updated by the staff member themselves.
Mhm.
They get to put where they rate themselves, self-rating, and then we have it to where the manager has to approve it because someone may think they're an expert at something and the manager says, maybe not so much, or vice versa. They don't think they're good enough at it. And so we have those guardrails on for our capabilities, but definitely been a key contributing factor to being able to help us to do the resourcing that we need to do.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Love it. Amazing. I really want to now focus on KPIs because I love what you shared and I would like to bring it up on our slide. And the question is, how do you know you're moving into the right direction? How do you know you're successful, right? That was one of the questions we saw and also the assessment questions from Rashonda for the lay of the land. And the same we can apply to starting off the RMO. How do you know that you're successful on this journey? So here's just one example, and I thank you both for sharing it with us. So let's have a look at how you went about measuring success as a young RMO. Can you take us through, Suzanne? What are we seeing here?
Sure.
What
So we
is
started
that?
really simple. Remember, we were not doing anything before in terms of our RMO. So it was really, and we knew kind of how long it took us before. So we just started simple. It was how long did it take us from the time that the opportunity was closed won to get it in the hands of a PM where it could start being worked on. And for us, it was right now it's 1.22 days. We have
Mhm,
small projects, so this don't that our numbers don't mean anything to the group here necessarily, but for us that was our goal, was to be under 2 days. um
mhm,
and then we think, well, not only how fast are you doing it, you can do things really fast, but how accurate is it? So
mhm,
then we needed to think, well, we have a process for reassignment. So um, if something needs reassigned, and there's definitely different reasons for reassignments. We want to focus on the reasons where we messed up. If we messed up, did we assign someone that wasn't capable? That's an RMO issue. Did we assign someone and then the time period changed and that person is no longer available for what changed? That's really not an RMO issue. We just need to reassign it because things out of our control happened. So there's
mhm,
there's different types. You also have reassignments for people that leave, their tenure ends, and such like that. So we measure how many times and what percentage of our total assignments needed to be reassigned. And right
mhm.
now we're sitting out of our total assignments, we have less than 5% of them needing to be reassigned.
Wow, that's great.
So that means we're doing something right. That also can be communicated back to the business in terms of when we're trying to build that trust again. We can say, you can trust us because even with their end tenures and things that change, we've still only had to reassign them 5% of the time. So,
Mhm.
there's just a little bit. So those are the two main ones. One of the things we do also look, if you want to go to the next,
Yeah.
the next that you started, one of the things that stood out early to us in our organization was that we wanted the spread to be a bell curve, evenly spread, even distribution of billable utilization, if you will. So there are people that are always going to run hot. They are just they get stuff done quick. They want more. They function better when they have more. So you're always going to have your outliers. You're going to have your outliers that just do that. They're not necessarily overburdened. That's what they like. So there's going to be some in the far left, which is very high utilization, and there's going to be some in the far right, which is low, and that includes your new people that are just starting and ramping up, so their billable utilization isn't going to be as high, and also those that are tapering down for retirement or leaving for a new position, etc. But what we looked for was we wanted the desired goal was we wanted 60% of all of our resources to be in that sweet spot of I can't remember what it is now. It's 60 to 75%
Exactly.
utilization, billable
Yeah.
utilization. That's what we wanted. Um, this can be adjusted however you want, but it's a good way to see, how are we doing in terms of spreading the wealth. Um,
Mhm,
because
mhm,
there are those reasons where it will be high and where it will be low. And so we just wanted to make sure. So this is something we look at on a monthly basis as well.
Fantastic. Awesome. And thank you so much for also sharing these very concrete examples. Of course, very highly dependent on the context and the type of business. You've got many, many, many smaller projects, right? So the actual
Yeah.
numbers might depend heavily on your type of industry and company, but it's a great example of how you went about it and how it worked. And when we look at frameworks, habits, team structures, what really helped in your RMO journeys to evolve from starting off, startup mode, to higher levels of maturity over time? Maybe Roshonda, would you like to kick off?
Yes, certainly. From a team structure standpoint, ensuring you have the correct skill set for growth is key, so you can scale up. So wherever you're starting in your organization, you want to make sure that you have at least a thought of where you may want to go next, so that way you can scale up effectively. So you want to think about who will handle capacity of forecasting, if your RMO is going to do those things. Who will handle governance and employee engagement? If your RMO is going to handle those types of strategic things, and who will handle assignments. Those are going to dictate the type of roles that you bring into your RMO and what skill sets that those resource managers will need. So you think if you have a fully functioning RMO, then you're handling all billable resources. So if I think about historically, I've had teams that approximately 25 to 35% of the resources that are managed are project-based resources. The remaining 60 plus percent are work management, but they are billable to the client. So you are managing whether or not that company is having revenue leakage, waste assessments. So that team structure is important to know what skill I need. If I'm looking from a strategic standpoint, I may need someone who's more financially relatable, business intelligence relatable, those sorts of things. So think about it from a team structure standpoint and whether or not you're focusing solely on a delivery team or a full resource management where you're looking at anyone that's billable to the client.
Oh, I love your point on team structure. That definitely makes a lot of sense. Maybe Suzanne, from your very own experience, after you started off the RMO, who was the next role? Which skills were you looking for as the second person? And then maybe from there on, what else did you search for to complement your team?
Yeah, so we use the RMI and the RMCP certification. I myself got certified, and then we had done a restructure when we did the RMO, and myself and then another manager that was a people manager also fell under me, and they also sent her to get her RMCP. And then our third one that we hired at that point had already had that. So we just wanted them to have the level set RMCP knowledge. Just to give us all level set on our base knowledge. And then it's mostly, it's a kind of a personality. You have to have the right personality to want to be in resource management. You need to be flexible and work with change very well. So it's looking at those things and building your team that way. Then when we had an opening, then Rashonda was added to our team for the skill sets that she brings in.
Oh,
We're very
lucky
glad to
you.
have her. Yeah.
Yeah. Nice. And Rashonda, you already outlined as you move into a more strategical, perhaps business partner, while still doing the tactical and necessary, basically, tasks. Um, Roles become more important around financial aspects, business analytics. Can you maybe share a little bit more what you have seen? Valuable here and what upskilling, if any, would help someone, for example, who's currently in a resource management office that is more tactical. How can you upskill? What are some of the more refined added skills that are worthwhile acquiring over time to mature as a resource manager and an RMO?
Yes, certainly. So you're always going to have the tactical side. That does not go away with resource managing. You always need to assign for your projects if you have project base within your company. And then you have your work management side. When you're looking at scaling up, you think when you get to capacity planning, you want to think in terms of someone who has maybe have been a financial analyst before, because there's a lot of statistical analysis that you may do. When you want to build out your resource forecast, which is typically one of the most challenging things for companies to set up, is that resource forecast, because it should ping off of your financial forecast. So whatever the company's financial forecast ratio is, maybe they do a mid-month and an end of month, quarterly, what have you, the resource forecast and the sales forecast should be complementary of the company's financial forecast. So you need to be able to read a P&L statement, for instance. So that way
Mhm.
you are in sync with the forecasting. It shouldn't be separate.
Mhm.
And then you look at your dashboards and your reporting. You want to make sure that from a level one's perspective, that you can at least not take from the BI team, whatever you may call that in your organization, and that your team can set up base level reporting, base level dashboards within whatever you use, whether that's Looker, Tableau, Power BI. I mean, if it becomes more complex, then maybe you pull in the resources from those who have a higher skill set in development, that sort of thing. But from a level one perspective, we should be able to set them up. So
Very
you're
nice.
looking at it from that perspective. So business intelligence, financial analysis are very important in skilling up your resource management office. So that way you're focusing on revenue operations, revenue leakage, being a profit driver, for the company.
Mm, very well said. Thank you so much. Great examples. I'm going to jump into our Q&A in just a moment. So anyone, now is your perfect moment to capture your questions. And I would love to ask you, Suzanne, on your own journey of growing, maturing along with the RMO, personally, from your own lived experience, what did you find most helpful apart from the RMI, the Resource Management Institute? Were there any other resources, courses, books, podcasts that inspired you, that really helped you grow as a resource management leader?
Yeah, there's been quite a few things. I've met quite a few people at the global symposium. I've met meeting with other people who are doing it and having those conversations. I've met with some. There's a monthly team group together that meets to talk about it, is in particular for Cantata SX, but just meeting with others and learning from their experiences. It was a bit difficult at first for us. We have a unique, we're not a lot of the RMO leaders that I have met are more bigger projects, a lot less projects, and it's a different scenario. So I've had to search around and get some other people, but basically just talking with other people is where I've found that I learn the most. I've learned a lot from Rashonda just in the last little bit that she's been here. I learned from other people in the area, which is why I appreciate these type of webinars. You get to hear um, different parts of how people do different things. Some are applicable to you, some are not, but at least you know that there's different ways to do things. There's more than one way to skin a cat.
Yeah, yeah, 100%. And Rashonda, what would you add? What has been most helpful to you?
I would say the same. My human resources are probably my most powerful resources. I do try to stay connected with a lot of the resource managers that I have worked with over the years, and
Mm.
we've developed those friendships no matter where we have gone afterwards, and we rely on each other. We might ask what new skill that they've learned, what are they learning in their differently in their new company, those sorts of things. So that way you're always fresh. You're learning different ways of doing things. You're not just becoming stagnant. And then, of course, you all, Nora, at Run, you produce a lot of nice articles. You're keeping up with the trends in the industry. So beyond RMI, I'm like Susie, I am an RMCP and Advanced Resource Manager. I think we love to learn. She mentioned that it takes a special personality to be in resource management. And I think continuous learning and love of change management is probably two of those skills, right?
For sure.
So human resources and continuously looking at leaders in the industry,
Amazing.
knowledge.
Thank you both very much for your answers. And I love the shout out, Rashonda, you just shared to the content team at Run. And I can't, yeah, emphasize enough how like wonderful their work is, how much they're contributing. So perhaps, Edom, if you could share one link that yeah, allows people to have a look at the variety. And it's such high quality work. So definitely a huge treasure for the resource management community, and I would recommend to check it out. Great, let's dive into questions. I can't wait. Thank you for sharing them. Also, feel free to upvote the ones that you find most interesting. I'm going to kick off with question number one. Thank you, Ravi, for sharing. Ravi is wondering, how can we ensure 100% compliance with timesheets? That's a great question. Who wants to go first?
Well, one of the things we had to do, we have to do period close. So it has to be done. And it really helped us to get that when we first started, we were doing period close every month. And that would make our period close very difficult because people, we ended up making it go weekly. Has to be done weekly. We've got a governance process set up that sends out automated notification emails that needs to be done by this time. We hop in there at a certain time and just ping the managers of whoever it hasn't finished doing, submitting and approving, and that seems to have worked. It's significantly decreased the time it takes for us to close the periods.
Nice. So, yeah. Sorry, did you say those pings are automated or?
Yes,
Yeah, so the
they come
system.
out every Monday morning, reminding the teams that they need to not only submit but approve the timesheets that are out there. And once the period's closed, it can't get on there anymore. And then of course they have their own SLAs that they're supposed to meet. So if they don't get it on there and they don't meet their SLA, well then, you know,
Hmm.
that's
I
that's one
love,
of
I
the
love that.
benefits.
Yeah, I think that's a great case for automation, right? Where everyone wins, to be reminded of that, and it's not taking up manual work. So yeah, great example. Thank you for sharing. Rashonda, anything else that you've seen that helps with keeping compliance with timesheets?
Yes. Of course, there should be a period close, right? However, one of the things that I have found is a lot of team members wait until Friday or Monday to fill in their timesheets for the whole week. So that's one of those behavioral changes I like to adjust during those huddles I like to have.
Hmm.
Is making sure I like using analogies. So there are certain professions that bill in, say, 6 minute increments, and their jobs are very legal based. Imagine if you were their client and they waited all week or all month to put together their timesheet. Would you trust the bill that they gave you to pay as their lawyer? No. So when you're working, you should keep your time on a daily basis, not on a week. So there's integrity in the time that you keep. And when you have that, it becomes instantaneous. It's a sleight of the hand, takes a point click of a second, and then you realize that you are just working about your day. You can also set up an AI agent to track the work that you've been doing and put in your time. And that helps with that compliance. So then that way, when you do your period close, then you should only have your outliers that you're dealing with. The people who personality wise just need a little bit more of a push to do it.
Love it, and great reference to integrity and trust, transparency. Yeah, you want to lead by example. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So thank you also for your answer. I love it, and the huddles are a great channel, a great platform to remind everyone kindly of that. Nice. So we've got many, many questions coming in. Exciting. Please help me prioritize the ones that interest you by upvoting. There's a little thumbs up that you can use. And make sure they're in the Q&A section, not in the chat. Wonderful. I'm going to pick the next question from Irene. Irene says, Suzanne mentioned that their skills are self-assessed with manager validation. Can you please elaborate on the frequency and how the managers validate, for example, via a technical certification? Great question, Irene. Thank you.
Right. So for our certification, our capabilities, to even be certified at all, we do have proper certification courses. But just because you're certified, so we start with newly certified as our lowest capability in a product, and then it's essential, proficient, and mastery. And so they're all going to start off at newly certified. That tells the RMO this is someone that's just been certified. They haven't done this much, if at all. And so we want to find them an easier project, maybe, a single facility, or, just we don't want to give them the most complex project that there possibly could be that sets them up for failure. So we'll find that. After they've done a few and they feel a little better, it's not a hard set rule for when you move from newly certified to essential, because some people can move there very quickly. Some people take a little longer. That's where it's a kind of a feel. So we have some guidelines for, maybe you've done this 5 times or you feel like you're comfortable enough with it. That's the type of thing. So it still needs to be a conversation, and we recommend that they meet quarterly on their one-on-ones to go over their capabilities to make sure that they're still intact. There are times where a manager will come up to us and say, such and such hasn't been assigned a project in this. They've been certified for, and they haven't got it. They're going to lose their bill. I'm like, we look and they don't have their capability filled out. It's important that you have them in there and approved, or else we won't know that they can take the project and they'll never get anything. So it is good to have a governance process set in for that. And that one, like I said, they self-rate and it shows, and the manager can see it. But until the manager selects what they want them to be at and approves it, we don't see it. So it's important. And we have some reporting that comes up on the manager's dashboards that lets them know if they have some that they need to approve, etc. But no one should stay in the same capability forever. You should not stay essential forever. If you're getting projects and you should be getting better at them, and you should be up. And we save those mastery ones for our largest, most complex projects.
Thank you so much for sharing how you do it at Point Click Care, which sounds very elaborate. Rashonda, anything you would add from what you've seen work well for skills assessment and validation?
Well, I think on the flip side of that, one of the things how the RMO can assist with skills and proficiencies is when we're doing our allocation planning based on the demand coming into business, knowing what skills may be in more demand and passing it along to the team. So that way, when they have those capability meetings, they can have a career path, a room for growth of what they may want to work on. So that's how we can, aside from everything that Susie says about how to go about managing it, from an RMO perspective, we can help with the growth path of it.
Love that. Thank you for adding that important point. Yes, 100%. So thanks both of you for your answers, and thank you, Irene, for your lovely question. Let's move on and let's pick Jennifer. Her question is, or her point is, I would love to know which PSA and BI systems are being used for the resourcing and metrics. So perhaps, Suzanne, can you share what you currently use, and Rashonda, what you have seen in other industries?
Yeah, we use Cantata SX, formerly called Kimball. That's what we've used the whole time. It meets our needs in a lot of ways. especially the capabilities are there. It sits on top of Salesforce, so our opportunities are able to flow through. So that was the benefit of that for me. Um, I haven't used another one, so I don't have anything else to compare it to, but I think Rashonda has.
Thank you.
Yes. Yes, I have been with a company that went through its share, right? But from a PSA standpoint, I have a preference for Cantata. I really enjoy Workamajig as well, depending on your industry. With both of those, you can have dashboards that will bring in your allocations, your capabilities. You can see the heat maps if you set them up. I do like, I've dealt with Smartsheet. I think a lot of companies have. I think I've run the gamut of most of the popular ones. I do enjoy Resource Management by Smartsheet for resourcing. And with those systems, I like an API connection with your business intelligence tools. So if you're just starting out, I would say one of the easiest to use is Looker, which was formerly Google Suite, and it's free. Um, so if you're just starting out, it's easier for plug and play to have those more robust dashboards and reporting that are live pulled from multiple areas of data. Tableau is nice for some levels of reporting, but my favorite, it's a little bit more clunky, but my favorite is Power BI. It just offers more because I think it's been around probably the longest. Usually, a company's financial forecasts are in Power BI as well. So when you're looking at extrapolating data, not always, but usually, when you're looking at extrapolating data from your sales forecast and your financial forecast, it's already in there. So it's easy to pull that information over to your financial forecast and your utilization data.
Mm.
So
Amazing. Thank you both very much. And of course, I would also like to give a shout out to Run. So if you have not been across the platform, it's extremely intuitive in usage and very much designed to solve this very challenge of resourcing. So if you have not come across it, please check it out. It's awesome. Cool. Nice. Maybe we can do a quick last question and then we'll wrap things up together. Let's have a look. There are a few more. I'm gonna choose Chelsea's question. Thank you, Chelsea. What to do if your leadership just doesn't listen to your concerns, ideas, or proposed solution to build efficiency within the resource management office? Quick round. Suzanne, first answer that pops to your mind.
I would say just continue to bring up what you can offer and what benefit it's going to be for the business. Eventually, they'll eventually put the two together and say, "Oh, well, maybe I should have listened," or just continue. Just don't give up. That would be my
Mhm.
Thank
advice.
you. Yes, and Rashonda, quick round.
I like to speak in terms of revenue. That's usually the quickest way to a leader's heart is speaking in terms of the bottom line. So if you put together a margin utilization report that shows how you can improve that profit margin, reduce that revenue leakage, it's kind of hard, especially if they have investors to report to, it's kind of hard to deny if they realize that it's going to improve your financial standing within the company.
Love it. Absolutely. Straight to a leader's heart. Revenue. Fantastic. So, unfortunately, the hour went by super quick. That's always what happens in those webinars. So, from the bottom of my heart and on behalf of everyone who was here today, thank you so much, both Suzanne and Rashonda. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being wonderful panelists sharing from your experiences. I thoroughly enjoyed having you. So thank you for your time, energy, generous sharing with us today.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you for having us. This was great.
Oh. And also just a quick look into the future. In March, we have the absolute pleasure of diving into the state of resource management in 2026. So Run's second survey that we have been pulling together thanks to all the data that resource managers across the globe have shared. If you haven't shared yet, please help us out. The more data we get, the more meaningful the report will be. So we will be presenting the absolute insights, highlights, standouts, lessons learned from the survey on 12th of March. So we would love to see you there. We've got Hannah and Jenna from the Run team with us in March. And yeah, so much more to look out for in March. So thank you, everyone. I also thank you to everyone who dialed in today. We've had over 34 participants in the room, which is super exciting. Thank you for joining us, for learning together, and for being a wonderful community. It's a huge joy to work with all of you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Have a beautiful rest of your day. Take care and goodbye.
Thank you.